People like hardware so much here, they're shooting off fireworks right outside.
Is it fireworks or is it old floppy drives?
Old floppy drives, as a matter of fact. They're launching them out of their 5 1/4 bays. Just there's a guy downstairs. He built like this 5 1/4 bay slingshot thing, gas powered. Of course, you have to pull start it. I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, there they are, right now. So Wendell, you're still hiding in Nebraska, taking care of some secret missions.
Yes, I'm on the quest to find the Apple 2.5, which is not quite the Apple 2, but not quite the Apple 3.
You've heard it's buried somewhere in the cornfields, and the aliens have been making crop circles to try to guide us there for a long time, but we keep mistaking the crop circles for like just something that a bunch of kids are doing when it's actually aliens trying to guide us to the Apple 2.5, which holds the tome of all knowledge and the Ansible and a bunch of other things. So yeah. Anyway, let's talk about Qualcomm. Qualcomm takes down 100+ GitHub repositories with a DMCA notice. So if you guys are on GitHub today, sorry, Qualcomm they just really didn't like something on there. So DMCA notice just destroyed all this stuff. I guess 100+ is not a lot, but that's way more than it sounds like it should be. I don't know.
Marvell, I don't know what the reason behind this is, because looking at some of the files they've taken down doesn't really seem to be a legitimate complaint from them. So, or Qualcomm, this is a Qualcomm thing.
Right.
Qualcomm had some copyrighted stuff apparently in files that were open sourced. But really, I think what's happened is that Qualcomm worked together on some of these drivers and other components of this, whatever it is, and then something happened, and now some IP protection company's like, oh God, all our stuff's on the internet. And it's like, you goofuses, this is how open source works. This is not something that you should worry about and so they've just gone DMCA mad. But in the crossfire is CyanogenMod. So CyanogenMod's GitHub repo is down, and it's apparently because something in CyanogenMod supports a particular Qualcomm chip. So it's like, all right, Qualcomm, you act this way, we won't use your chips. Fine, whatever.
It's a bit ridiculous. Speaking of CyanogenMod, if anybody has a 1+1, I hate you. I can't get one to save my life. I'm getting kind of angry at the 1+1 team. Anyway, that's totally off topic.
We had a couple people post in the forum that they're willing to send us their 1+1 invites.
I replied to one of those guys. I didn't get a reply back yet, but if anybody has any 1+1 invites, let me know. If not, I'm going to drive to the 1+1 headquarters with a hammer, and I'm going to trade them a hammer for a phone. I don't know. I wasn't going to actually hit anybody with a hammer. Come on. All right. New 8-core Intel chips looks like they're going to be coming out this autumn, finally, for a ridiculous price of $1,000. I mean, that's worse than the 9590 or whatever, the AMD thing. So the Haswell E chips are upon us. The 5960X is going to be the $999 one. But that is, an X part. That's an extreme quad core. But it looks like that's going to be the only 8-core part that's going to be like an enthusiast part. Of course, they've got some 8-core parts that are Xeons right now, but that looks like it's going to be the one, the one 8-core part. The 6-core parts, normally they have like a 6-core part that's an extreme edition, and they have a slightly slower 6-core part that's like the 4960 and then the 4930, and it's like $1,100 for the extreme part, and then the other part's like $550 or whatever. That's what I'm running right now, the 4930. Guys, the fireworks are getting a little bit old. I know you guys like being independent and all. I'm going to go down there in just a minute and shoot some fireworks up their ass and put it on YouTube and make 1 million hits. Anyway, I hope you guys are not too angry about the fireworks. If not, we'll just not do the tech anymore. We'll end it right now.
some trolls already writing that email. It's like, God, guys, like, all right, well, we'll see next week then, won't we?
Yeah, like, I can't believe you guys did the tech during the fireworks, as if we don't have 1 million other things going on. This is the only time that Wendell and I were both able to sit down together. So shut your mouth, troll. All right, I just fed them. God, now they're going to get fat and happy.
Fat, happy trolls. It's not Danny DeVito? Is that what you're telling me?
Yep. Oh, God. Danny, if you're watching, is he still alive? Is he alive still? or did he die of like something awful? But anyway, this is, he threw his mother from the train and fell off in the process. Okay, so also there's a couple other parts coming out. Of course, there's going to be a 5930K. It's going to be $500, and then an interesting part's going to be a 5820K, and that's going to be a cheaper part. Looks like about $350 or so, but it's still going to be a 6-core. Now the other parts, I guess the 20 parts so far have all been quad cores. They're finally moving to 6-core, so all the 2011 stuff looks like it's going to be 6-core. And this one's going to have the same 15 megabytes of cache. So that could be a pretty beefy part. It's just going to be a little bit nerfed as far as the frequency goes. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff coming out. But still, I don't know. Do we want to be hard on Intel even though they're sponsoring us for Highlander? Should we? I think we should. We should call them out. Wendell, I'll let you do the honors.
Well, okay. So we've got, if you really want to look at this, we've got this generation on the socket 1155, or no, I'm sorry, the 1150, the Haswell refresh stuff. That's what I'm talking about. We've got this dual-core Pentium chip that's only like $75, and it's overclockable. And, you know, out of the box, it's 3.2 gigahertz, I think. You can hit 3.4, no problem. People are hitting 4, 4.5, 5 in some cases with this chip.
You talking about the anniversary edition?
Yeah, on the anniversary edition.
Yeah.
But this is as far as you can go with dual cores. So this Pentium, the $75 chip, is as cherry as you can be with a dual core processor. And now it doesn't have any fancy features or anything like that. I mean, the i5 has features and the i3 has features, but in terms of clock speed and what you're going to get out of a dual core chip, it's not hyper-threading or anything like that. This is the pinnacle. This is signaling the end of the dual core generation. Intel has been milking that peak for as long as possible, and dual core is at an end because of, you know, we're basically as far as we can go in terms of clock speed. The thing has 3 megs of L2 cache. The Pentium is neck and neck or better than the i3 in a lot of real world tests. Now, artificial benchmarks are still going to put the i3 ahead of the Pentium, obviously, but in terms of games and frames per second and things like that, especially an overclocked anniversary edition, is going to be as good as or better than an i3. And so this is really signaling the end of the dual core generation. The next gen i3s really should be a quad core part. And on the, you know, on the red side of the fence with AMD, you can get a quad core or maybe even a hex core part that will outperform an i3 and outperform the Pentium anniversary edition. And it truly is quad core, or it truly is 6 cores. And so this with Intel, taking that into account and looking with that lens at the 8-core part, it sort of looks a little bit worse. You know, when the first 6-core parts came out for 1366, they were really an experimental part, and they immediately followed up with a 6-core part on a new socket. But in this case, they've got a new socket, 2011-3, and the first part for that is this 8-core. And so you're really paying $1,000 to be a beta tester, like people were paying $1,000 for the Extreme Edition part on the 1366 platform to work out all the bugs. It's going to be the mainstream 8-core part, which will probably come out about 6 to 8 months later. That's really going to be the stable part. And that is I don't agree with that business practice. I don't like it, mainly because 8 cores time is here. I mean, the 8350 is a solid CPU. If AMD were selling 8350s for $100, it would be crazy not to buy it, even though it uses 2-3 times the power.
Yeah, I mean, it's you really get into a price per dollar argument there. I mean, the Intel stuff per core just absolutely destroys the AMD stuff. And then you got the dual core Intel. I mean, even per core, it's still going to be faster than an AMD per core, and it's really fast per dollar. But really, I'm having a hard time recommending these things, even though they're great for games. If someone just wants to play games and isn't worried about the future games taking advantage of more than 2 cores, maybe I can recommend it, but I still tend to lean toward the least expensive quad core that you can find, even if it benchmarks slightly lower, because overall you'll get just better future proofiness. But I don't know. The anniversary editions are good. So
we're just looking at the anniversary edition strictly as a dual core is at the end of its useful lifetime, pretty much. And here we have 8-core. We've been on 6-core forever. We were on 6-core on 1366. Then we had Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge 6-core parts. Now we've got Haswell E, and they're wanting 6-core parts to be the mainstream thing again. That's 3 generations of mainstream 6-core.
I don't know. Do you think I should get an 8-core CPU? I really, really want one of those things, but you're afraid that I'll be a beta tester? I mean, I don't know. Should I just get one of the 6 cores?
We've gotten a bunch of the 83, the Xeon. It's the E5 2620.
Right.
Those were on fire sale in a lot of places because the V2 was available, and so you could get those for $300-400 each. It's a 2 gigahertz 8-core, but it turbos to 2.5. That's a $400 part, but it only turbos to 2.5. So you are paying for a little bit, almost 1 gigahertz faster per core on the 8-core part. But I'm not sure that that's worth a $600 difference, especially when we've been on 6-core for 3 generations, basically. 8-core is the next logical bump, but this much of a bump in price is ludicrous.
I know that the 8-core is going to be like the first enthusiast level or the first mainstream part that they've got that's 8-core, but don't you think they might have worked out a few of the bugs with the Xeon 8-cores? I'm thinking that'll help a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That is
so
true.
I'm not too scared of it, I guess. But
on 1366, it was more of a situation that they were working out the bugs because 1366 was an end of life socket, and in this case they're coming out with 2011-3, which is a new socket to handle it. So I think they probably did learn from the 1366 episode, and that maybe is a bit too harsh, but at the same time, $1,000 for an 8-core part when that's the next logical jump in the stream, that should be a $600 part like the previous generation.
Well, there should be a $600 option. I mean, they always price their extreme parts at $1,000 or more. So it would be nice if there was a non-extreme, like a 200 megahertz lower part that was just a K part instead of an extreme part. So Intel, if you guys could please make an 8-core that's a K part and not an extreme part, I think you guys will sell a gazillion of those. I won't object if someone sends me an extreme part. That'd be great. I'll be like, hey, thank you very much for the extreme part. I'll use it. It'll be amazing. Videos will render so fast that I'll get angry. I won't even be able to go get a cup of coffee because the video is going to render, and I'll be like, damn it, I can't even get a cup of coffee. But I'd rather have that. If I'm going to pay with my own money, I'd rather have a K part for like $600 or $700. And I'm willing to pay $600-700 for an Intel 8-core, even though price per dollar it's crazy. I want the craziness. So.
What about getting 2 2620s for $800, which would be 16 cores total? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, how will it run my games?
Well, we've got a video coming up on that.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. Speaking of dun, 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 that's not even a word. Intel may have some interest in using AMD's Mantle API. Why would they do this? Well, they are the biggest supplier of graphics cards because, I don't know, almost every integrated thing in the world has an Intel graphics card in it. Your laptops, I've got the Asus laptop. We have the G550, the G550J that we took on the mountain. It had an Intel and an NVIDIA in there. Almost everything has an Intel in there. So these are not like uber crazy fast GPUs like the AMD stuff and the NVIDIA stuff. But they still are the world's largest supplier of graphics cards, and they could really use some close to the metal, API stuff. So what do you think this would do if AMD actually allows Intel to start testing and using Mantle for their own purposes or adapting it for their own, GPU solutions and stuff?
I think that, you remember the AMD graphics card next architecture diagrams? I think Intel has looked at that and said, holy crap, this is the future for us. This hybrid system architecture with system RAM and the move to DDR4 and all this stuff, this is it. And so this really, to me, signals that AMD is still an R&D powerhouse, and Intel wants what AMD has in terms of that platform. Now, from a strategic standpoint, wouldn't it be interesting if AMD and Intel became allies against NVIDIA? Not really against NVIDIA, but in terms of setting standards, like graphics standards. I mean, certainly that would be at odds with NVIDIA, although not necessarily, in an anti-competitive way or in a way that is bad for the consumer. But I'm sure that people inside NVIDIA would be, a little bit nervous at Intel and AMD cozying up to one another. But AMD's architecture and their platform and their forward thinking, while NVIDIA engineers are off helping optimize the next generation games, AMD engineers are working on next generation platform ideas, and I think that's fair to say because Intel is looking at this and saying, "Holy crap, this is really good. We want a part of this."
And that could be a huge thing for Mantle. I mean, just because right now Mantle is not getting out there as fast as I thought it was going to. I didn't think it was going to be crazy fast, but I mean, DirectX is still king, and this would probably bother DirectX. And if Intel and AMD start working together on this may also be some shaky stuff for CUDA as well. That could be interesting because OpenCL is what AMD likes to use. I'm not sure if that means Intel is going to use OpenCL as well, but I mean, Mantle's a totally different thing, of course. But if they work together, maybe.
I always thought with Bitcoin it was interesting because with Bitcoin it shows that, you know, OpenCL, in terms of general raw computations, OpenCL has a significant advantage over CUDA. But in terms of, you know, being able to elegantly exploit what's there, CUDA has the more mature software engineering platform, and so they're able to get more with less on the CUDA platform. But in terms of raw computational horsepower, OpenCL wins. So it's an interesting dichotomy there.
Now let's move on and talk about Philips. They're showing off these really interesting LED-powered connected lights for offices, and you can apparently run about 3,000 lumens worth of light for around 30 watts. It's going to be about 30 watts. That's pretty awesome. The really interesting thing here is they're going to be able to hook these up with Ethernet cables, and then you can use the frequency of the LED lights to communicate with various devices. Let me give you guys some scenarios. Let's say you walk into an office room and the lights are all hooked up, you know, they're all on the network. You can probably do all kinds of terrible things with them. Well, since they're on the network, like send messages, keep track of who's in what room based upon which phone IDs log into each room. But let's say you walk into a room, pull out your phone, and your phone's like, oh, you're in this room. So now your phone knows where you are, and you can change the lighting. Let's say this is also hooked into, like a network system, and maybe one of the modules inside the light can monitor the temperature and that sort of thing. Well, maybe now you'll have like environmental controls and that sort of thing. Just because you walked into a room and pulled out your tablet or your phone or even your smartwatch or whatever, now it's communicating with the LEDs. So there's a lot of implications here. I'm not sure what the price is going to be for the end users, the consumers, and the businesses and that sort of thing. But hopefully stuff like this will be the future of lighting. I think it's pretty damn cool. I don't know. So, I mean, anything else? I think I pretty well covered. Anything you want to add to that before I move on?
No, it's just going to be, it's not, the first generations of it will be useful for like music broadcast to a room or, you know, embedding data streams in stuff that comes from the light. But it's a really interesting technology that had a lot of potential applications in smart homes and smart businesses.
All right, let's talk about Venus. Everyone's talking about Mars. Everyone wants to colonize Mars, but have we thought about colonizing Venus? I mean, Venus seems like a paradise. I mean, lead melts on the surface. How hot is the surface? Like several hundred degrees Celsius. It's a paradise.
Yeah, it's not really paradise at all, but it's melt your face off paradise. I don't know. Is that like Jersey Shore? I don't know.
Yeah, melt your brain off, more like it. But anyway, a science fiction. Go ahead.
Well, so people were looking at Venus. The thing that's appealing about Venus for colonization is that at the bottom of the atmosphere on the planet, the atmosphere is way more dense than Earth, but the atmosphere is very thick. And so there exists a band in the atmosphere that has approximately the same pressure as Earth. And Venus also has about 90% the gravity of Earth, whereas Mars's gravity is much weaker, and the Moon's gravity is much weaker. So if we could somehow have a floating space station in Venus's atmosphere, we wouldn't have to deal so much with the pressurization problems of a colony on the Moon or Mars. And if there was a leak, it's not necessarily bad, especially if the outside pressure is only slightly lower than the inside pressure, because then if we had a leak, it would be escaping, but it wouldn't be escaping very fast. It would just be escaping slowly. So that wouldn't be as much of a catastrophic failure as, depressurization and basically the vacuum on the Moon and be almost vacuum on Mars.
Well, another thing that's interesting about this is they also, I mean, Venus also has some atmosphere. So it would help with the radiation and a lot of the major problems that you get from landing anywhere else in the solar system. I mean, if you basically would get vaporized without that. And they have sort of a shield similar to like what we have here on Earth. So if you look at it from that standpoint, I bet it would also be pretty, they're living in Cloud City on Venus. I wonder if George Lucas would get royalties if we created a city there. So, I mean, I'm sure there's
all along.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of naysayers and that sort of thing. I think it's a romantic and fun idea for me. So let me have this. Let me have this, guys. I think it's a really cool idea. I do think it sounds more interesting than going to Mars, just from the sense that there's already an atmosphere there. I'm not sure if plants would grow the correct way. You wouldn't need a crazy spacesuit. I'm not sure how breathable the air is because I think there is.
Not at all.
Well, there's air. There's nitrogen. There's oxygen. I'm not sure what else is in the floating around. Is it maybe some kind of acid? I'm not sure if it's sulfuric acid or whatever. But yeah, it's different. It's not exactly the same as Earth, but there may be ways to breathe.
The main other benefit is radiation shield. So
right.
we can pull useful stuff out of the atmosphere. So that's pretty good. And radiation shield and gravity and pressurization. It's a win-win.
Oh, I've opened up another article here, but I forgot to mention it to you, but I'll just read the headline and then move on. Some Russian physicists are launching a campaign to rebuild Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower. That's the tower that can provide crazy power and power the world. So there's a couple of physicists here. I'm not sure what's going to go on with this, but we'll move on and let you guys read that because I forgot to add it to the list. And we're not prepared to talk about that right now, but I think that's pretty damn cool. All right.
In all reality, the wireless power was really just intense radio waves, and it was like, look, I can make a light bulb glow with insanely high voltage from far away. And, it's more useful from a museum and posterity standpoint than actual wireless power, probably. Although people are doing more stuff with wireless power in general for device charging, so it might be interesting.
Well, they've got an Indiegogo campaign right now. They're trying to get $800,000 to build this thing. So keep an eye on it. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of campaigns out there, sort of capitalizing on the fact that fossil fuels are bad, and they're using images like this, like all the greenhouse gases and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of people out there raising money, and they're using almost these scary images. I feel like some of it may be a money grab.
I would say that there are a lot more people that are using Indiegogo to prey on the general lack of scientific knowledge of the public and collect money for plausible sounding, but in fact farcical things to just rip people off, basically.
Man, if I was chaotic evil instead of chaotic good, we could totally make a lot of money doing this stuff. I bet everybody would give us money for our harebrained scheme to improve the world through some alternate power source that I found by rubbing my feet on carpet really fast or something.
Basically, they do. Thank you, tech support members.
Yeah, but we're not lying to those guys. I'm saying if we were really evil, we could lie and make up some crazy thing and then make all kinds of money. So, but yeah.
I mean, that is like the really innocent version of it is that it's the village idiot. And so it's like this village idiot is like, look, I've got this perpetual motion machine and I can build it. And it's like, oh, Timmy, you're such a moron, but you try so hard. Here, have millions of dollars to pursue your dreams. Like, yay, thank you.
That's kind of the way Hollywood works too, isn't it?
Yeah. And government.
Oh, man. And the government. Oh, now I'm sad. Oh, all right. Millions of tons of plastic in the oceans have just gone missing. The new study finds apparently they went out there with some nets with like a uber microfiber because a lot of the plastic that's in the ocean has been broken down so much that it's almost microscopic, just little pieces of plastic. And they said there was apparently millions of tons, but they discovered that from their, I guess, swaths of the ocean that they used their microfiber nets on, they only found what they thought would be around 40,000 tons. That's a global estimate based upon their findings. So where the hell is all the plastic that we thought that was in the ocean? Are we really not litter bugs? Is there really not an island the size of Texas floating around made out of plastic? Where's it gone?
It's in the tuna.
It's in the tuna. You guys are eating the plastic. So a lot of the plastic is being consumed by the marine animals, and we're eating plastic. I think we're kind of already eating plastic. I mean, we've been doing it willfully, like eating things like Olestra and stuff for a while, but now it's kind of coming back around, and we're eating it in our tuna and our wonderful stuff that we eat. Bottlenose dolphins. Who eats bottlenose dolphins? Anybody? Does any country eat bottlenose dolphins? I don't even know.
There might be a country in the Philippines, maybe, but generally not.
Yeah. All right. Now let's talk about some other new discoveries. Like a new state of matter has been discovered. This one, okay. Let me go ahead and preface this right fast, Wendell. So, the University of Colorado Joint Institute discovered a new type of matter while in a quantum fog. So the University of Colorado Joint Institute discovers new matter while in a quantum fog. That's the headline that I get from this. Colorado. There was quite
a new state of matter. I don't know.
So the Droppletons is what they've discovered. And I guess before, oh God, this is complicated stuff here, but it's pretty freaking exciting. And before we just thought it was, solid, liquid, and gas, then plasma, then Bose-Einstein condensate, then all these other things, supercritical fluids, and now Droppletons. I don't know. Do you want to explain Droppletons to everybody? It's over my head, but you're the one who has a degree in this stuff, kind of, right?
Really, this is just fun. You should. It's a fleeting thing, and it will probably be useful for mathematical models. But in terms of like practical uses and things like that, the jury's still out. And so it's really, hey, something like this has to be happening at a quantum level, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. But there are a lot of things that are like that at the quantum level. It's like Feynman says. It's like, oh, well, it behaves like this thing that I'm familiar with. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't exactly. Things at the quantum level are not like anything that you know, and trying to make it like things that you know is not a good idea. I mean, that's part of the picture. It's like, oh, it behaves like waves. Well, no, it doesn't exactly. Well, it behaves like particles. Well, no, it doesn't exactly. This is like that, but with the actual state of matter. And it may suggest things about the quantum structure, like the quantum components of particular pieces of matter that give rise to mass, as you have with, a Bose-Einstein condensate and things like that. So it gives us sort of insight into those components, but because it is so foreign and so strange, it's very difficult to relate it to anything that anyone is really familiar with.
What?
It's because it's not. It's like, oh, it would be like as if it's a rubber band. It's like, no, I've done you a terrible disservice by comparing it to a rubber band, because that is an electrical phenomenon in and of itself. And so I've cheated you from an understanding.
And this stuff only lasts for like a millionth of a second or something anyway. So it's there maybe for that. No one can even do a millionth of a second. No, you can't do it. Can't even do it. So yeah, it's a millionth of a second. That's more than a jiffy, isn't it? Or what's the measurement of a jiffy? I forget. It's something like that. Crazy. All right, let's talk about Bigfoot.
I don't know.
We're going to talk about Bigfoot. Our show is now going boldly where no one has ever gone, or no show like this has ever gone before, and we're talking about Bigfoot.
Yes. Boldly split infinitives.
Okay, so a new study came out, and guess what, guys? Bigfoot is real. Stupid. You see where I went there? Yeah, Bigfoot's not real. Now, there's a bunch of hair samples, all these like Bigfoot enthusiasts, mainly burly people with 80 IQs and flannels, have been collecting hair samples from skunks and from deer and elk and bear, human hair, in fact, with some of them. Some of them are even like fibers, like pieces of plastic and stuff like that. Anyway, there's some new techniques that have been developed, and a geneticist at the University of Oxford, Brian Sykes, decided to test the 37 samples that people are saying are all, like Bigfoot hair samples. And using his new method, you guys can read here if you really want to get nerdy about how it works, but The problem before that people were having was that a lot of the samples have been contaminated by coming in contact with other DNA, and his sample really is able to analyze the DNA of each individual hair strand and determine exactly what it's from. And he found that every single sample, some of them were obvious, just throw away the plastic ones and all that weird stuff, and all the rest of them had obvious matches: bears, skunks, porcupine, even deer, and humans. So I'm sorry, Bigfoot enthusiasts out there. I wanted to believe when I was little. I thought it was an amazing idea. And I used to run around saying, like, hey, you know that there are 7 mammals larger than a deer, totally unknown to science, that are discovered every year in the world. And I really wanted a Bigfoot to be one of them. But he's in so many different countries, in so many different places. Don't you think that one of them would have showed up somewhere, like Sasquatch or Yeti or Yeren, or one of them somewhere? Skunk ape even in Florida. I mean, how hard is it to spot a freaking skunk ape in a swamp? It's flat. And it's water, and there's little trees. There he is, the skunk ape. No, nothing yet. So that was my rant about Bigfoot. I finally was able to let it out here on the show. Like, there's also Wendell, there's dinosaurs in Africa in like a really secluded part, because here's the reason they exist: because only 12% of the world has been properly explored, or some crap like that. There's places we've never been, and that's where the dinosaurs are. We just don't know it yet.
Well, but we have satellite imaging, and dinosaurs, I mean, are they underground? Are they hiding?
Nomosaurus Rex over here, and his cousin, never mind. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the most ambitious artificial intelligence project in the world, and it's been operating in secrecy for about 30 years. Did I give you this article, or did you give me this article about Psycorp?
Oh, no. Well, that you're talking about OpenPsych, aren't you?
Yeah, OpenPsych, as a matter of fact. Yes.
I don't remember. I haven't seen this article, but I'm very familiar with the OpenPsych project, and I've seen some of the demos of the government version of it. You can download. It's okay. So this isn't a normal artificial intelligence engine. This is what's called an inference engine. But they have built a huge amount of functionality on top of it beyond an inference engine. But an inference engine is basically old school, classic, 70s style artificial intelligence, and it's based on a model of intelligence where you basically are modeling in software. If A, then B. If B, then C. Then by deduction, inductive reasoning, you have if A, then C. And so the demo that I saw was unbelievable. It was a question and answer format, and this was probably about 5 years ago. And it was the guy was asking natural language questions like, "Tell me about strychnine," and the computer would respond, "Do you mean strychnine, the series of short stories by author so and so? Do you mean strychnine, the poison? Do you mean strychnine, the brand of something else? Do you mean strychnine, the colloquial term for a particular part on Humvee?" And it was like, wow, that's awesome. And those types of queries for that kind of an inference engine are basically pure logical constructs. There's not really intelligence to it, but it can be useful for deducing problems. And commercially, it's been used since the 70s to help companies build out complex dependencies for commercial products. So if I'm going to order, a mainframe, and I need dial-up capability for the mainframe, all the components that will get me from a mainframe to a mainframe with dial-up capability, it'll fill in the gaps in the middle through the inference engine. So it is a kind of intelligence, but it's not human intelligence. But they're building stuff on top of it to make it more like human intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the problem right now with computers is they read the words, they read the text, and they don't see the white space around it. They don't see they don't make inferences. They don't assume, just like you were saying, this is an inference engine. And it's one interesting part here in the article is they said if computers were human, they'd present themselves as autistic, schizophrenic, or otherwise brittle. And that really is the problem, is there's that human disconnect where we have all these memories and thoughts and experiences that we can draw upon to put something together, and a computer just has basic facts that it can pull from here and there, but it's nothing like it can't infer. It can't it can't reason the way that we can. And I guess right now they're at a point where they're willing to talk about it. And apparently the software is something that may be able to rear its head in various other applications in the near future. So you may see, you know what I would love a piece of software like this in a video game. I went straight to the fun, I've been working way too much. I really want this software in a video game. I want characters that realistically conspire with me or against me. That would be so much fun. Let's get an open site going on for the next Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever. That'd be amazing.
OpenSite is a very fun thing to play with, and if you're on Linux, it's pretty easy. You can apt-get your way there. Take a look at it because you can do a lot with that foundationally.
All right. Next up, a huge building is going to be built in the middle of New York City. Silverstein's 520 West 41st Street. This is a huge building right here. As you can see, it'll be the biggest building, slightly taller than the World Trade Center. I should put it on the screen. You guys are looking at the side of my head right now. Yeah, it's let's see here. Where's the actual 1.14 million feet of residential space? The gross of 1.685 million. Let's see, where's the actual height of this thing? 100 and something floors. Where does it say how many floors it is? I don't remember. 106 floors. Yeah, there we go. So a large building. You know what's interesting about this is I didn't one time see in this article anything about power consumption or green or solar paneling or anything like that. Maybe I need to look a little farther into it, and maybe someone's going to yell at me in the comments and be like, "You idiot, you missed it. It's right there." But after just coming from Asia, it was kind of shocking to see how many buildings that they were using some sort of fuel cell technology or solar panels or doing something that's green. Or in Taipei, especially the Taipei 101, seeing that huge building and realizing that is the largest green structure on the earth, that was pretty cool to see. I'm not over here saying that China's better. I'm just saying that, holy crap, they're doing some things that I don't know why we're not doing over here. So, yeah.
Yeah, this to me seemed more like an Acropolis project combining retail, commercial, and residential space, but on a scale that is just, is really an engineering marvel.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. So, yeah, bigger than the Trade Center. The Trade Center is just about to be finished now, the new Trade Center, and this one's going to be a decent bit taller than that at 1,100 feet. So. All right, what else do we have to talk about? Automotive grade Linux. Oh, yes. This is going to be awesome, and I really need this. I was just thinking about putting Android into the car, but why not just freaking go crazy with automotive grade Linux? Automotive grade Linux will feature home screen, dashboard, Google Maps. It's got media player, news reader. Why would you want that in your car? You'll wreck. Audio controls, of course, Bluetooth phone, all kinds of different things. Smart device. Link integration. So, do you need this as well?
Yes. Well, of course. And the magical thing about Linux in the car is that you can make it intelligent enough that it's like your phone is nearby, and it's like, let me upload your preferences for the car, and then it just does it. I think there are some luxury cars that already do that, but this is more on a generic platform. It will be adapted and extended in ways that nobody ever intended with a hopefully open platform.
Yep. It looks like it's going to be based on Tizen. Is that right?
Yeah, Tizen is the UI.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I guess it'd be fun to play with Tizen as well, even though I'm used to Android. I'm sure it won't be that different. It's still Linux backend.
Someone's going to hack it. No one on Linux will be happy until it's running like, x.org at, 1/10 the speed of, the native frame buffer. In other news, the IRS has apparently reclassified nonprofits as far as open source software is concerned. So the Apache Foundation and the Mozilla Foundation, they make Firefox, they are classified as nonprofit corporations under U.S. tax code. But the IRS has looked at a particular nonprofit open source company and said, we don't think that open source is a legitimate thing to be nonprofit for because reasons. And so this could have adverse effects on many, many other companies that are basically nonprofit. Now, in America, we have some classifications. We have nonprofit and we have not-for-profit, which are different tax classifications. And it's not that they don't pay income tax. It's that the tax situation works a little bit better, and they aren't really taxed on – they're companies that are set up in a in a not-for-profit kind of way, in terms of it's like the company wants to have its operating costs covered and salaries covered, but the corporation itself is not necessarily taxed on its income or other tax shelters that are there. And so this ruling can have a strong negative impact on open source projects that survive on donations or that are otherwise sort of good stewards of sort of the open source ideals. Now, the particular company that was an open source company that the IRS is looking at is maybe doesn't live up to open source ideals. They were maybe using the open source banner in a way that they really were operating like as if they were a for-profit company. So this may sort itself out, but this is an article we thought we should mention so you guys can take a look at and maybe write your Congress critter and say, hey, you know, nonprofit is a perfectly legitimate, nonprofit open source is a perfectly legitimate nonprofit classification. So otherwise, it's going to adversely affect Mozilla and therefore Firefox. And so let's hope that the situation resolves.
It's just that they're afraid of what they do not understand. That's exactly what's happened. They don't understand it, so they have to smash it and burn it with fire. That's all that's going on right now. All right, let's talk about games, shall we? Ready to get into some gaming?
Games.
Sid Meier's Beyond Earth. I've got a couple of. Let me turn this volume down. Muted. I've got a couple of trailers here that I haven't seen yet. I'm looking at the Civilization Beyond Earth that I am really looking forward to. They finally released their E3 walkthrough. And, of course, the game is still using the same engine as Civilization 5. At least that's what it looks like for me. It's a hex-based engine. And what's significant about this is, for me, my personal favorite strategy game and one of my favorite games of all time was Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. I thought it was light years ahead of the Civilization games as far as balance go. They really hit something on the head there. I don't expect this to be as fine-tuned as Alpha Centauri, but the setting is going to be a lot of fun. It's a sci-fi setting, but it's essentially a Civilization game set in outer space. And that's what Alpha Centauri was as well. It was a Civilization game set in outer space. So I'm really looking forward to that. And if you guys are anything like me, you should go check out that that video. I'll watch the rest of it later. You guys can watch it on your own time. That brings us to our next trailer here. The new Skywind renewal trailer shows off a lot of the enemies, shows off some of the armor, and also shows off some of the clutter. We are on version 0.9.4, so this is getting really close to release. They're going to have an alpha available soon, and they've also had they came over to our forum and they said, hey, would you guys like to audition to do voices in the game? And I've been meaning to do that. I think you already did that, right, Wendell? You already auditioned.
Yes.
Oh no, we and the audio came on for some unknown reason. So Wendell already did that. Some of you guys have already done that. I've been meaning to do it, but I've been so freaking busy with all the travel and stuff. I really want to voice, I don't know, a Nord or a Breton or something like that. I can do a Breton, I believe. No, maybe I can't. I don't know. Anyway, the game's looking really good.
You're going to get some voice coaching. You can totally do it. You can do it. I know you can.
Can do it. Look at those Balmora Mountains. So what Skywind is it's Morrowind in the Skyrim engine, and it uses a lot of the gameplay mechanics. A lot of the gameplay mechanics in Morrowind turn off the new gamers who are not used to the strange combat system and that sort of thing. I really like the gameplay style of Skyrim, even though it's not as hardcore as Morrowind. I like the combat. I like first-person shooter style combat. I like being able to shoot my arrows and feel a nice thud when I hit somebody instead of just sitting there and swinging, and there's an invisible dice roll behind the scenes, and I don't know if I actually hit them or not. I just swing, and then maybe 1 out of 3 hits actually counts for something because the dice roll was high enough. So I don't know. I like the real-time combat, so I'll be playing that. Morrowind's still my favorite out of the Elder Scrolls games, but the new stuff is looking pretty good. It's coming along nicely. So again, thanks to the team over there for coming over to our forum to seek talent.
I don't know if I'd call us talent, but we'll fill in the gaps.
Well, to seek gap filler-inners. Yeah. All right, and the last thing I wanted to mention was there's a new trailer out for the Gods Will Be Watching. You guys can check it out. It's visceral. It's a game that really, it's a click adventure that forces you to make some extremely tough decisions. And if you guys like stuff that's brutal, I mean, when I say brutal, I'm talking like if you leave this person alive, 2 people may die, but you'll have to shoot them yourself to save the other people, possibly. That kind of stuff. It's a pretty brutal looking game. With they've gone the 8-bit style graphics or the pixel art graphics. Some of you guys are getting fed up with that, I know, but if you can deal with pixel art brutality, go check out that video. So I think that's about it. Highlander footage should be live like almost right now, so you guys should go watch the Highlander footage. Thanks to Asus, Intel, and Corsair for hooking us up and helping us make this possible. We did break the world record, highest altitude land party in the history of the universe. So it was awesome.
Wow. Yay! Battery operated Wi-Fi for the win.
And nobody died, almost. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next video.